What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Brawl with Liliana. That's right, Liliana, Waker of the Dead, as our Brawl general, if you will. Liliana is a 4-mana 4 loyalty Planeswalker, +1. Each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. -3 to give creature -X, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And if you're able to stick around long enough to get to -7, you get Emblem with at the beginning of combat in your turn. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. So that's any graveyard, so your opponent's graveyard, your graveyard, it doesn't matter. So Liliana is a pretty powerful Brawl commander because she is 4 mana, so it definitely puts her on the cheap end of things. Definitely a big fan of cheaper commanders because your opponent's going to see what your commander is, obviously, and they're generally going to prioritize removal for it, so the cheaper your commander is, often the better it is. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you're playing a more expensive commander, maybe doing more of a wait-and-see kind of approach with the commander might make more sense. But we're trying to cast Liliana, at least have the option to do it early, and just use her +1 or -3 with basically with impunity, and just try to get as much value as we can before she gets removed, and then just recast her again a little bit later on once we're a little bit more set up, and just try to get as much value off of this as we can. And so we're looking at Liliana. We're trying to take advantage of basically all 3 modes here. And so having things in your graveyard and having things to get back, creatures to get back out of your graveyard is kind of the main focus here. And we're in mono black because obviously Liliana. So playing all the good removal spells in black, some of the cards that kind of give us some utility, and also the cards that synergize with it. So we're going to go over it real quick and then we'll jump into some games. So Bloodchief Thirst, of course, good removal. Malakir Rebirth. Once we do stick one of our big reanimation threats, it's a way to kind of keep it alive. Or we can just play it as a land drop if it's in our opening hand. Eliminate, gives some nice early interaction. Feed the Swarm, let's just hit enchantments, which is pretty important for a mono black list. Grasp Darkness, since we're mono black, we have no qualms about the double black casting cost here. And -4. If it doesn't outright kill something, it can maybe keep your Liliana alive, or at least maybe give you a little more time before you die to a bigger creature your opponent is running. Heartless Act is pretty good removal. Mire Triton, Death Touch, gains you life, and of course starts filling up your graveyard a little bit for Liliana. Nullpriest of Oblivion, no way if you get creatures back out of your graveyard if you kick it, and just a good threat here on turn 2 sometimes as well. Skyclave Shade, kind of the same thing here. If you have this on turn 2 and your opponent's off to a little of a slower start or not very creature heavy, then Skyclave Shade can come in and start getting the beats in for 3 mana. And of course with the landfall trigger, you can just keep recasting it out of your graveyard, so definitely problematic for your opponent's taxing your opponent's removal. Tymaret, just give us some nice utility, a nice creature that fits with our devotion to black, although admittedly we're very spell heavy and not so much permanence as far as getting up the devotion up, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference, you know, how much toughness is once you get up to a certain point. So obviously it'll at least be a 2/2, but we can get this easily to like a 2/4, 2/5, 2/6, and that's pretty good in most situations. Anyway, but just being able to exile stuff from our opponent's graveyard is fantastic. Mazemind Tome, since we're a little bit of a slower deck, we're going to run Mazemind Tome, give us a little bit of card advantage, which is something black is a little bit light on these days. Being able to scry or draw cards, and then getting you life against the aggro matchups is great. Demonic Embrace, since we're going to be doing some self-mill with Mire Triton and discarding with Liliana and things like that, it's perfect discard fodder that we can just kind of get back later on by discarding land or something like that we don't need off the top, and putting it onto one of our big animation threats maybe, or even like a Tymaret or something like Skyclave or Nullpriest of Oblivion, and just kind of being the aggro deck in certain situations, or if your opponent has kind of maybe prioritize targeting your bigger creatures, just put this on one of your smaller creatures and kind of use that to kind of leverage a victory sometimes. Inscription of Ruin, not a huge fan of this card, but I feel like it fits just well enough, and in the Brawl format, I think these kind of modal cards, these cards that give you multiple options, are definitely get a step up in value. So Inscription of Ruin, we can kick it, so we get all 3 effects here. Target opponent discards 2 cards, return creature card with mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, which we have quite a few 2-drops obviously. And we can destroy a creature on our opponent's side with mana cost 3 or less. Murderous Rider, of course, good card. Nighthawk Scavenger, leveraging some of that removal and discard to fill up our opponent's graveyard and make this a little bit more of a bigger threat. Of course, Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, all pretty relevant for our game plan as well. Pelakka Predation, just take advantage of these kind of cards as well in Brawl. That can be a spell or a land. Obviously in Brawl, your opponent's going to be running, a lot of higher priority cards because it's kind of a slower format. Higher mana cards, I'm not sure I said that right. Or we can just play it as a land, of course. Pharika's Libation, again, it's more enchantment removal, and the sacrifice of on creatures obviously works pretty well too, because we have so much targeted removal that we're going to get something good out of this, unless your opponent is just able to spam a bunch of tokens onto the board. There's not too many of those things in Standard right now. Soul Shatter, so making your opponent sacrifice again. Creatures or planeswalkers of the highest mana cost on their end. Carrion Grub, another way for us to kind of get value off creatures in our graveyard. It's 0/5, mills 4 cards when it enters, and it gets +X, where X is the greatest power among creatures in your graveyard. Direct Underworld, since we're in mono black, just will be often a 2, maybe sometimes 3 mana removal spell. Eat to Extinction, just good flexible removal, hitting creatures or planeswalkers. Often it's going to go against your opponent's commander, just kind of slow their game plan down. Erebos, since we're in that mono black, just trying to take advantage of the Devotion, and when they do kill one of our creatures, we get to at least draw a card. Hagra Mauling, of course, fantastic. Rankle, again, gives us kind of a little bit different look, since we are on the discard side of things. Also being able to maybe sack one of our smaller creatures, like our Mire Triton or something like that, to force our opponent to sack something as well can be nice. And card advantage as well is pretty important. It's something that we're a little bit light on. So we have Solemn Simulacrum, another great sacrifice target to Rankle. Also draws us a card when it dies as well, and tutors up some land. So we can kind of keep our land count at basically the bare minimum, even though we're running a fair number of top end stuff that we may have to hardcast depending on how the game goes. Cauldron's Gift is one of our reanimation spells. Obviously the ones we have in Standard aren't really great right now, but Cauldron's Gift is at least playable. And this lets us mill 4 cards, and we can choose a creature card in our graveyard, and it comes back with an additional +1 counter on it. Pelakka Predation is a great reanimation target, especially with all the removal we're running. Your opponent does get 3 0/1 goat tokens, but then they have to sacrifice a creature in response to combat phase, and if they want to tap down your Pelakka Predation, which is 8/8 trample and haste. If they do, you gain life and you draw cards. So either way, it's basically a win for us, honestly. Drana is another way for us to kind of get back creatures out of our graveyard, because your opponent has to choose a non-legendary creature card in our graveyard, and that comes back with a +1 counter on it. And she's otherwise a 5 mana 4/4 flyer. Of course, we've played around with her a couple of decks now, so you probably have a decent idea of what she's up to. Gravebreaker Lamia. It's kind of an interesting card here. 5 mana 4/4 lifelinker. Hasn't seen a ton of play, but actually I think that fits pretty well here with our strategy. We get to search for any card, put it into our graveyard, and then shuffle our library. Spells we cast from our graveyard cost 1 less to cast. Just trying to put one of our big reanimation creatures into our graveyard, and then get a 4/4 lifelinking creature onto the board. Rise Again, another way for us to kind of get creatures back onto the battlefield. Same casting cost as the other one, but it doesn't have any special +1 counters or anything like that. Unbreakable Bond, same thing, but it gives us a lifelink counter at least. Gourmand, if we hardcast this, we have to sacrifice a creature as the initial cost to cast it, which probably not going to be doing. But it is 6 mana, so maybe. Otherwise, it's a 5/5 flying trample that makes your opponent sacrifice a creature when it enters the battlefield, so it's a fine reanimation target. Mask Worm, of course, works extremely well with Pelakka Predation. It's a little bit narrow, but it's also pretty good in general, of course. And being able to cast this multiple times, and even if you don't get any value off the -2/-2 to end turn thing, just having your opponent lose 2 life every time we kill one of the creatures with all the removal we're running, that can be pretty devastating for your opponent right there. Damien, Demon of Loathing. Here's a pretty fun one, just super expensive, super slow. Pretty sweet on paper, but doesn't necessarily play out as well as you would like it to. 7/7 flying chapel. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. Again, if your opponent has multiple creatures on the board, not as good. So, and with a 7 mana casting cost, a little hard to make this work like in Standard, but in Brawl, especially what we're trying to do here, it fits in pretty well. With all of our removal we're running and our reanimation, Demon of Loathing fits in great. Void Mechner cycles itself. You can draw a card. You can put a Death Touch counter on one of your creatures at instant speed. It's pretty fantastic. So if you just have like a little creature you need to jump block with, like a like your Nullpriest or Mire Triton has Death Touch, of course. But like a Tymaret, if you need to throw this in front of something just to stay alive or whatever, then you can give it Death Touch, and you can take out anything your opponent is attacking with. And it's a good reanimation target as well. Erebos Intervention gives us more interaction for our opponent's graveyard, but also in the aggro matchups, or your opponent gets off to a good start with their creatures, like Rada and things like that. You get to give a creature -X and gain some life. So removal and life gain. Agadeem's Awakening, another way for us to kind of get some of our creatures back. Obviously, it's pretty expensive. We're trying to get some of our bigger threats back. We can get some more of our utility creatures at least out of it, and try to get some more value that way. Castle Lockdown, since we're in mostly running swamp heavy, Castle Lockdown fits in just fine. 19 swamps, 1 Bonder's Enclave, since we do have some bigger creatures. But if we're still, if we resolve one, but we're still looking for ways to maybe get through for combat damage or something like that, we may still need to dig for answers. And so having the card draw on this, I think, is pretty important. And then Field of Ruin, just kind of a nice way to kind of deal with our opponents' non-basics. If they're running like a 2-3 color deck, it might screw up their mana sometimes. You can kind of deal with if they're running castles as well, we can kind of deal with that. All right, that's the deck. Jump into some matches or games. All right, up against Brakos. So we've got a Sultai commander over there. I don't see Brakos very often. It's pretty cool. Well, that hand seems fine. We've got a couple kill spells. A reanimation card, Demonic Embrace. We can always discard that if we don't find anything else. Tymaret. It's fine to play on 2 as well. And Sultai. I'm kind of curious if they're more just like on a mutate. Sultai mutate. Well, we can't play Feed the Swarm at instant speed as a sorcery, so we'll go and drop our Tymaret. This gives us a creature on the board. We can kill something that they play. It gives us our Devotion for Drag to Underworld. Well, Drive lets them kind of go off a little bit. Inscription of Ruin. We could Demonic Embrace and just go aggro. I don't think that's quite the right play here. I think we need to keep them off of creatures since they're probably just on a mutate plan. And what's just Inscription here, right? Mana cost 3 or less. Just keep them off creatures that they can try to mutate on top of. And obviously they can't let Brakos go to the graveyard. We just have one card right now. I mean, we have Direct Underworld for 2 mana, thanks to our Tymaret being Devotion-y. So that's where Devotion kind of comes into play. We don't have anything else to do, so we'll exile. I was going to say, do they really let their commander go to the graveyard with a Tymaret on board? I mean, you can mutate Brakos. That's its mutation is to you can cast Brakos using its mutate ability. So it's kind of cute to let it go to your graveyard, but do you not? I guess they don't know how Tymaret works. Okay, we'll take it. We were a pretty good spot there. They didn't have creatures to mutate. Seeing if they had like a whatever mutate creature. I mean, they weren't going to get any value off of it, and we had more removal and Liliana coming down too. So we were in a good spot. Alright, against Klothys. It's interesting. Obviously, we don't have great interaction for things like that, but it's kind of part of another reason why we're running Pharika's Libation. And right on cue, the algorithm says, hey, here's a Pharika's Libation since your opponent is running Klothys. Alright, so we got the turn 2 Mazemind Tome. We can scry into land if we don't find any in our couple draws here. And if they just tap out for Klothys on 3, we can answer it immediately. And at least slow them down. Usually Rada is the Gruul commander of choice because of her utility and everything. And obviously Liliana's giving a creature -X, another way to get around indestructible, so if they do get Klothys up to scary territory, then we can always just minus and kill it that way. We don't need our removal spells. Mire Triton. I mean, we found our 3rd land. Yeah, I think we'll still Mazemind Tome, keep the graveyard empty, so if they do want to Klothys here, I mean, they have a failed passage. They could try to get some value off of that. Okay, they have a Field of Ruin. We're just going to Beanstalk, grab whichever land they feel like they're needing. Sure. We'll scry. Yeah, we'll take a land. Mire Triton, I guess. Go and get a creature on board since they're not doing anything else. Mill 2 lands, including a castle. Like that castle if this is a more grindier Gruul deck, if they're more top end heavy. I'm guessing it's mostly just kind of a basic Gruul list, like you just swap Rada with Klothys and it would basically be the same. Alright, so a bunch of lands. Do we care about that? And Gruul colors. They're probably light on removal. I'd rather have a... we'll just keep it as a land, I guess. That's fine. That's fine. We have 2 lands, they have 2 lands. We're giving them ramps. They can potentially do what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6 mana play here. Let's just be safe. Let's get it off the board. Slow them down. Alright. I mean, Mazemind Tome and the Triton definitely pad our life total against this Klothys. Eventually they're going to obviously get some value off of it. Mono black, we don't have good ways of dealing with enchantments. They choosing not to cast. Not sure what that is all about. We want more lands. Don't think that matters. Right, we could Liliana here and discard something. I'm really curious what they're holding up here. Where's Clackbridge Troll? See what they do. And next, if we draw a land, we can Liliana and Tymaret. Or I could Tymaret and eat some stuff out of the graveyard. We'll take a card draw and some life here. They choose not to. I mean, they didn't play their Klothys when they had to, and they're in Gruul colors, but somehow didn't have a 5 mana play here. They must be holding up a removal spell here. Not that Gruul has great instant speed options like Scorching Dragonfire. Shows a couple others I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But yeah, generally Gruul does not have great instant speed removal, at least not right now. Like Thundering Rebuke, Royal Eruption, those are all sorcery speed. They just want to flash in an Omen, just get an extra land, even though they just Beanstalk Giant. Alright, so they seem like they're a very late game heavy deck. We'll leave the stop on upkeep just in case. Well, wait, if we scry one more time, then obviously we lose our Mazemind Tome. So we'll just do on their end step. To 6 lands. Well, they're just trying to get the Beanstalk territory. They want to Klothys and do something else. I'm really confused what opponent is up to. Okay, Keno's Transformation. Can't do anything about that. That is a 3/3. We can Liliana minus it. Doesn't seem great value for us though. Could wait and just try to draw some cards later, but I mean in Gruul they're gonna have probably Gem Razors, Return to Nature or something to deal with it, so I'd rather just get we want 6 lands. Sure, we can do the Liliana Tymaret plan here, I guess. Also, 100% chance our opponent is running Scorching Dragonfire, so we're holding up some instant speed removal. So they exile our Clackbridge Troll. That's unfortunate. Well, we have a demon to fit in our graveyard. Hopefully they don't have the ooze or other graveyard interactions in hand. Although we don't have any reanimation spells either. Discarding a Morog when you have 6 mana open. Very curious why our opponent is playing the way that they are. It's like you're in Gruul colors, but you're playing like a control deck with all these like not casting creatures when you can, holding up removal. Okay, Phyllis is pretty good. We're at 4 cards in the yard. Nighthawk Scavenger is pretty good. Let's see, that's a 6 mana. Or no, it's based on X minus X, not casting cost. Yeah, all we have to do, they have 1 green mana open. Can't imagine they have an answer here. Let's search for something we can potentially get back. Massacre Worm. So that gives us the requisite 5 creatures. No text. They do have a 4/5 token. If we can top deck a reanimation spell, then that'll be pretty good. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. With our opponent at 13. Take that. If they swing at the 4/5, obviously we'll block with the Mire Triton unless they have removal. Then we'll have to figure out if we want to double block or let Liliana die. We'd have 6 lands in play, so we can easily just recast it. Okay, there they go, Terror of the Peaks. I feel like they already had that in hand. I'm not sure why they went with Phylath instead of Terror first. But maybe they just top decked it, or maybe they just chose to use Phylath to make a bunch of creature tokens to defend themselves. I mean, we're not really doing super aggro things on our side. And they kind of let us with how slow they've been playing. Oh, Volcanic Salvo. Well, I'm not sure those are the right creatures. Obviously, we need a way to deal with this Terror of the Peaks, otherwise they're just going to get tons of value off of it. Do we discard Space Godzilla? Do we cycle it? I guess we can cycle it. I mean, we already have Death Touch, so it doesn't really matter. It's a land. Well, discard your last card. We're at 31, but not really feeling too hopeful with the Terror of the Peaks out. And we got plenty of removal in our deck, so it's not a lost cause, but it does still a little bit rough with a Beanstalk Giant staring us down on Terror of the Peaks on the board, who can do nothing about. I assume you want to kill the creature, yeah? And then you could swing at Liliana. It does reset Liliana, so I could play her again and kill your Terror of the Peaks. Not sure that's really the wisest choice. Yeah, not really where you want to be. We do find our reanimation spell. Wow. Opponent looking heavily at our graveyard. Are they slow rolling a Scavenging Ooze or something? I mean, as long as that Terra is on the board, we can't really assume our creatures will live.
This battle is going to end on my terms.
So yeah, if they want to send their Beanstalk Giant at Liliana, that works for us. Obviously, if they do have graveyard interaction, we don't love that. We do have the Unbreakable Bond in hand, and we can massacre all these tokens, which is outstanding for us. Okay, opponent chooses to go face. They're trying to erase us. They think they got the Cultist and the Beanstalk Giant, and that's going to be good enough. Well, my friend, don't think so. You got a response with your 1 card in hand. You're going to scry. Seem a little premature. You take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, go down to 3. Liliana can't minus, so I have to plus or just do nothing. That's what I was trying to think about, if it was worth doing nothing, but I think But I think getting rid of their, well, because they're going to gain 2 more life and go back to 5. So Liliana is not lethal with if they're empty-handed. And they have chump blockers for our Massacre Worm, so they were still in a pretty good spot. So we'd probably just do nothing, and just so we can keep our E2 Extinction on the Beanstalk Giant. Definitely felt pretty premature there, and just the way they played it out, I'm guessing they were maybe a little bit newer player. But obviously, you know, Gruul can do some pretty busted things, but we were fortunate to answer the Terror of the Peaks before it got out of control. And we found our reanimation spell, which did pretty great against that. Otherwise, I feel like, you know, Liliana definitely gives you a lot of value to kind of grind out matches. So it's a good game, though. All right, against Garrick. So we're up against another removal deck. Golgari colors. Got the Eliminate, Mire Triton. Turn 2 Nullpriest isn't really great in this matchup, but we'll see how it goes. Even got the Jace sleeves. Wow. So definitely going to be removal heavy. Not creature heavy. Alright, question is, do we leave open Eliminate? Do we just jam Mazemind Tome? Do we go for Mire Triton, force him to use some removal? Oh, so we don't like that, and I think it's a pretty reasonable target. Slow them down a little bit. Probably hoping to cast like a Nissa or something here. Okay, opponent does nothing. Love how they're reading their own Planeswalker there. Like, dude, you built your deck around Garrick. Why are you reading it here in the middle of the game, bruh? Well, just Mazemind Tome. I think the card advantage might be worth it here in the early going. Make sure we have answers for anything they do. Well, if they're slower, then we may not need it as much. Maybe better just play out creatures. It is a land. We don't have anything in hand, though. I think we'll bottom that. Might want it eventually. So Mire Triton, see if that gets the instant speed removal spell out of their hand. And with Mazemind, Heartless Act, probably just leave Nullpriest in hand. It could get one of our creatures back later on. I mean, they're going to be chock full of removal. It's tempting to play the Nullpriest here just to get maybe some more creatures and start taxing removal that way. It might make more sense to at least get 2 creatures on the board with it. We are at 4 lands in play, 1 in hand, and a Mazemind Tome that can help us, dig for one. So if we feel we need to Heartless Act, we can do that. Otherwise, probably leaning towards drawing a card here with the Mazemind Tome. They spend one of their better removal spells in Murderous Rider to deal with a Mire Triton. That's curious. Murderous Rider is not a great Heartless Act target, but opponent seems stuck on lands here. We can always kill on our turn, so let's just draw. Well, there's our lands. Alright. Liliana can do some nasty things here. Well, since they seem stuck on lands, let's just kill your dude. And draw a card. So we have our 6 to kick a Nullpriest, but not much to get back with it. Don't think a Mire Triton is quite what we're hoping to reanimate. That's pretty interesting. Alright, let's Liliana keep the Murderous Rider off the board. Just don't want them to have any creatures. Yeah, they get it back to their library, no problem. But we'll leave mana open to draw with Mazemind Tome and just kind of using their card advantage. It's probably going to be worthwhile to grind through their removal. Well, they were stuck on lands for a little bit, but now they're finding their removal. Thanks to Liliana's devotion, we get to kill the Clackbridge Shoal, so they're maybe trying to do some similar shenanigans, or they just put it in there because it's good value. We'll plus discard Demon of Loathing. Kick the Nullpriest now, I guess. Even though we won't have the Malakir open. Or we could Rise again. Get it back, leave open Malakir Rebirth. Might be a good play as well. Yeah, let's do that. Let's try that. And even though we have mana open, we also have Mazemind Tome open, so they have no idea what the pauses in priority are for, so they have no reason to put us on a Malakir Rebirth. They might, if they're really clever, but we'll see. Oh, they just go for a migration path, so I'm guessing their hand is not very good here. I do come into play tap, so they can't do anything. Discard the swamp, I guess. Hit you for 7. I mean, they're in Golgari, so they could have some hasty. Although if they do have a hasty, it's probably just you know who. Questing Beast. We've already seen the Clackbridge Troll. Alright, we open Nullpriest as well to get something back. Just try to be a little bit patient. Also just draw a card as well. We have 3 mana open, so we can Malakir and draw a card. Of course, drawing a card after we plus with Liliana is best, unless we don't want to discard anything in hand, then we might need to plus or use this just to draw as some discard fodder potentially. But okay, they're gonna make some wolves, but we have flying. So this has to deal damage to a player. Cool. Well, they minus. So yeah, what do you got? 1 mana's open. Don't think you have a way to deal with our board. So we use the Nighthawk to kill the Garrick. Actually, do we? They have enough mana to replay Garrick. Oh, there goes our Nullpriest. We're holding that just as insurance. So there's nothing really to get back out of our graveyard since we already got the demon. So it doesn't really matter too much. We're going to gain some life, draw a card. Opponent is tapped out. Actually, I don't think that attacking Garrick is worth it, because then it gives them a chance to just recast it with a fresh loyalty, and then they can just kill one of our creatures, which we now do not have protection for. Let's go and play the Grub. Why not? Alright. Not what we were looking to mill there, but hey. We have 2 cards in hand plus a fresh draw here. They're going to make some wolves and see what they draw here. See what they have in hand. They have a castle they could draw with as well, but a 5 life. It's pretty dicey. Ooh, they had a Vivian in hand. That's spicy. Obviously, Vivian works better with creatures, but even without creatures, she's still pretty solid planeswalker. Yep, make some wolves. You got 2 loyalty. I got a couple flyers. What do you got? What do you got? There goes our Demon of Loathing. But then that actually gives them an instant, which they didn't have. So our Nighthawk Scavenger all of a sudden is lethal. So, yeah, the opponent kind of screwed themselves with that one, unfortunately. And they made our Grub a 7/5 instead of a 2/5. That defaults to things. Yeah, it was a pretty sweet game there against Garrick, who seems like it's a pretty popular commander these days. Alright, so another Garrick list. It's a little sketchy. I mean, we just need 3 lands here to really make this hand work. So we'll try it. I mean, odds are we'll draw some lands, right? We could have a kill spell or a creature. If they give us something to thirst, which isn't likely on one, it could be a Guilty Goose. Well, there's a 3rd land. So we'll just go and throw our creature down. I mean, they're playing tons of removal, so let's see what you got. So next turn we have all the manas open to us. If they just play a creature, probably just Demonic Embrace. Do we care about that? I mean, we can hit them for, what, 6? Make them deal with... well, last game, obviously, we killed their Mana Dork. But I think I'm fine with just going with the pressure here. I mean, Skyclave Shade is pretty taxing on their removal if they don't have exile removal. They should be running E2 Extinctions and things like that, but yeah, of course they had it in hand. Alright. Do we have a discard fodder? Not really. So let's just Bloodchiefs. And leave open our instant speed interaction here. Oh, they got their value off the Tetrahedron. Warrant Reef Ooze. We'll Murderous Rider that. And we can play it next turn. Or do you want a Liliana? We don't have anything discard. So let's, I think we'll run out our hand here and then we can maybe Liliana next turn. Couple lands, it's fine, making Liliana better, -4 now. And whatever they play here, we can Blood Price. Top 4 cards, 2 of them into your hand, the rest at the bottom of your library, and in order you lose 2 life. I literally do not have any recollection of that card. Well, we have nothing to get back with our Cauldron's Gift. I don't really want to discard anything though. We're in a pretty awkward spot, unfortunately. I kind of want to field review, just maybe shuffle the deck, see if we can get some better draws, but they don't even have any non-basics for us to target, so we're not in an ideal spot. Gotta make some tokens. Yep. Well, sacrifice Garrick, so you have to wait a couple turns to replay it. Now we got something to discard. Do we? Let's see how they block here. That 13, so they probably feeling a little bit of pressure to they chump the Murderous Rider and then they kill the Mire Triton. That's interesting. Yep, get your loyalty counters. Get your loyalty counters right here. Liliana. We'll discard the Space Godzilla. I'd rather draw, obviously, and cycle it away, but we've got the Cauldron's Gift in hand, nothing else to discard. Opponent's sitting on a ton of cards in hand, so definitely want to start hitting their hand. Nylea's Intervention. Not a widely played card. It is Brawl, so kind of anything goes a little bit, but still not something that I would play. So they kill our Liliana, which is fine. We're 1 mana shy of recasting her. Oh. Epic Downfall. That's a pretty good Brawl card. Well, there's our 6th land, but we're just going to Cauldron's Gift here. Ooh, Drana is interesting. That's probably... I mean, it doesn't... It's Drana. She has more upside. Right? I mean, they probably have removal anyway. If it's a Heartless Act, though, we do have a counter on it. So they can't Heartless Act. We know they've already used some removal with Epic Downfall, Murderous Rider. Looking through their graveyard. Do they have something to... Okay, you can put those back in your hand. Do you have mana to Oh wait, Epic Downfall is only 2? Oh jeez. Card that nobody plays, and opponent getting paid off like a boss. Wow. And it's exile as well, so I mean our reanimation deck isn't really reanimating here.
The best thing about zombies is their adoring obedience.
We can certainly grind, but it doesn't feel too good in this spot.
I'll be even more powerful next time.
Okay, killing our Liliana again. Shadow Spear in your Golgari control deck. I mean, I guess it turns off Hexproof Indestructible. Erebos. Without Devotion. That's such a sweet animation. So, I mean, we're at 29, so we have definitely given ourselves a... we've given ourselves a chance here, but what do they have? They can get back a Ooze or a Great Horn. Well, we get to hardcast a Demon of Loathing. Question is, do they have removal now? I mean, they don't have great things. Oh, they have a land to play Garrick. Now they can kill it. Draw a card. They're going to get back a creature. Not feeling too good here. Well, we can... They don't have great things to get back. Great Horns, whatever. We can Liliana. And unfortunately, our opponent just had the just the right sequence of cards at the right time, or they just played it extremely well with Epic Downfall, etc. Pretty sure we're dead here. Drana's going to give him value. Actually, it doesn't even kill the Great Horn anymore. Yeah, with a Garrick fully on board, we don't have good answers for it. We had to kill the Drana there, so they didn't get more value off of that. That was pretty rough. Fortunately, our opponent with exile removal, and yeah, just tons of value. I got beat by cards that don't see a ton of play, so I guess you gotta respect that. It feels bad in a way when it's like nobody even plays that card. Like, how do you beat me with that? But I mean, they made it work. Sometimes you just, as they say, sometimes better be lucky than good. So, yeah. I guess I'd rather get beat by some janky cards that nobody plays. Like once, whatever that green spell was, that got them 2 cards back from their graveyard, and Epic Downfall, which sees some play but isn't widely played. It's probably something that we could play in our list. Definitely thought about it, but ended up on Grasp of Darkness instead, but maybe Epic Downfall. Because Brawl is a little bit slower format, so there's definitely going to be targets for Epic Downfall as well. Grasp of Darkness is a instant, or as I believe Epic Downfall is a sorcery. There we go. Yep, sorcery speed. So yeah, definitely could find room for this in Liliana. Brawl. Yeah, some pretty good targets for it. There's also cards like Agonizer Remorse, which I'm just not really a big fan of in the Brawl format. Like, if you top deck it, it feels like pretty terrible most of the time. Things like that. Just try to look for cards that can kind of give you value at generally any point of the game is what I try to emphasize when I'm building a Brawl deck. But yeah, obviously game 4 didn't quite go our way, but you know you're not going to win every game. Our opponent drew and played like a champion there, so hey, it's good stuff. Didn't see Rankle there, Solemn, but yeah, got the Clackbridge Troll Massacre Worm combo. Of course, our opponent conceded before we actually get to all the triggers. off the stack. For some reason, we drew Demon of Loathing like every single game, but you know, it's a pretty sweet card, so I don't totally mind seeing it. Just like the variety would have liked to seen like maybe some Rankles or something else make an appearance. Erebos made an appearance, but it's a little bit too little, too late. It would have been nice to have that earlier when our opponent was killing all our stuff. Try to get at least draw some cards off of it that would have helped. Mazemind Tome drawing his cards was pretty sweet. And yeah, just tons of removal, but not like all the removal, just most of it. So it doesn't feel like it's too controlling, too evil. And then yeah, Liliana, she's definitely proved herself to be a very sweet Brawl commander. Seems some kind of underrated still. Like I think still people are still looking at like Gruul commanders like Phylath and Rada, and then of course I'm drawing a blank right now, but Garrick. Obviously, we saw Garrick, and there's other commanders that seem like they see a ton of play. What's that stupid Simic one that everybody was on for a while there, and probably still are? Kennen. Chulane obviously is super busted because it just spirals out of control so fast. But yeah, I think Liliana definitely deserves a spot to be up there, especially if you build around her properly to take advantage of all three of her modes. And I feel like this deck does a pretty decent representation of that. You can kind of change a couple cards here and there, but that's kind of the fun of the Brawl format. And definitely feel like this is a pretty solid foundation. I've checked it out for a spin a few times now, and the deck has felt super strong. I've won. I think that was actually the only game that I've lost was that last game. So haven't played a ton with it. So take that as you will. But yeah, like the synergies here. Good removal. The creatures that just synergize and provide just the right utility here. Taking advantage of some of these lands like Pelakka Predation. That Malakir Rebirth was pretty sweet against the first Garrick list when they played their Garrick minus to try to kill something, and we were able to just essentially negate that by getting it straight back onto the battlefield. And then trying to play all their reanimation spells, which a lot of them aren't very good, but hey, it's what we have to work with, and we're just trying to make play with the cards we got. And in Brawl, any card is essentially playable, really. So, yeah. If you guys have any suggestions, or let me know what you guys have been running as your Brawl commanders, or if you want to see me build around a different Brawl commander, I'll be trying to incorporate Brawl not every week like I was doing at one point, but always trying to do it, on a slightly more regular basis, I guess. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.